Hi, Judy. Hi, Tim. Terry. How are you, Terry? Beverly from Chicago, suburbs. Andy, Brooklyn, New York, USA. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning to this tour. Right now, I'm in southeastern China, Anhui province. And today, on this tour, we're going to do something a little different. Tomorrow is the winter solstice. In China, it is not a public festival, but it's a folk festival. When people actually celebrate to mainly honor their ancestors, the deceased ancestors. It's not a public holiday though. All right, I need my kid's finger help to flip the camera for me because now I'm holding the gimbal with my hands in a glove. Cindy, can you help me flip the camera here? Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you. Cindy is my daughter's English name, and this name was given by her brother. Her brother's name is Kevin. All right, look, this is the first view you get today for this tour, and there are some. Look, do you know what kind of a fowl this is? Not, I mean those dark ones with white heads. These are not ducks. These are not geese. It's something. I know what it is called in Chinese, but can you help me with the English? Let me zoom in on those things. All right, can you tell? What's the English name of this thing? They are basically black, but on the neck and the head parts, it's white. Duck? Okay, it's a kind of duck. Yeah. In Chinese, we call this tun to be distinguished from a regular duck, which is called in Chinese ya, and this is called tun. All right, this is kind of duck, and here, let's see what's it's written here. There's a logo of the Communist Party of China, and the Chinese characters stand for listen to the party and follow the party. All right, let's follow me on this tour. I used to visit that village located up there for this tour. Today, we're going to do something different. This is just a tiny part of the village. There are about less than 100 people living there now, while the village used to see about 2,000 people living there. And now we're going this way to the mountain. My children are not at school, just like many other Chinese kids these days, because of the COVID cases that have been spreading in the past 2 weeks like wildfire. A lot of people stop working and kids stop going to school. And for kids, I think their semester is over for this term. We're in a tiny village. there are only less than 100 people living here. Well, tourism here, not big at all, as you can guess, not big. But there are some individual travelers who come here to visit every once in a while. And now, since there's no travel regulations and restrictions anymore, these got lifted just recently by the government, and we do see some travelers coming even these days, because some people, they don't mind. They come, they go everywhere. We're going to take a hike on this mountain. The first thing we think of doing today is actually to go to the tomb of my father-in-law's, my wife's father. You know what? Tomorrow is the winter solstice, and I talked about the significance of this non-public but traditional festival in China, when people do things to remember their deceased ancestors. And here, according to the local tradition, a daughter, which is my wife's case, is supposed to go to the tomb one day before. Tomorrow is the winter solstice, but now we're going there today because of my wife. She is a daughter. And my wife, she has one sibling. She's from this village originally, and we met in Shanghai. My wife's brother, the only sibling, is less than 2 years older than her, and he is not at home. He has worked as a migrant worker in different places, and he is a masseur. He used to work in different massage shops. And now, last year, actually earlier this year, he opened his own little massage shop. This is what my wife's brother does as his trade. And my wife has always been in a tea business, Chinese tea business, and a very genuine trader of tea. Not easy to find in China. Do your children speak English? Katie? Actually, my son speaks English, and he is quite active in speaking English. That is something I'm very happy about. And my daughter is, I would say, too little to speak English, but she is trying. My daughter is 6 years old, and she is in the first grade in the local primary school. We moved here half a year ago from Shanghai. Children, I would say that they have accustomed to living and the schooling here pretty well, without a seam, to be honest. But my daughter is very naughty these days. For her age, I would say I do not want to compare her with other kids in her age, but just as a matter of fact, she is very naughty these days, and she never do things in order. And things we have always dressed her down a lot these days is how she always eats snacks in stealth. She eats snacks in stealth behind us always. All right, this is a dog. I don't know who the owner is, and there are a lot of dogs roaming around, unleashed. I have never seen a leashed dog in the countryside of China. In Shanghai, there are some leashed dogs, more leashed dogs, but still a lot of unleashed dogs roaming around in the neighborhood. The difference is just in Shanghai, there are just more leashed dogs. And there are also a lot of unleashed dogs. But here, there's not a single leashed dog. Probably also because here, there's a lot of space and less people. And those dogs are Chinese domestic breed of dogs. Local people think they are very unaggressive, as they think. And now let's look back at this village that I used to visit on this tour. And this is still a part of it. But you can see it's a beautiful view. Black and white houses, some 2 stories, and now we are seeing those 3 stories and 4 stories, and also dotted by some adobe houses. And there's an obvious adobe house on the right up corner. This is a typical scene you get in visiting the countryside of this area of China. Oh, thank you, Kitty. And when I say the countryside, maybe I would rather use the term rural China. And I would say this village is quite a backwater village in southeastern part of China. Yeah, because the countryside, a city like Shanghai has its countryside, its suburb and its countryside. And I just want to make, different concepts. There are some more houses, and there are only less than 100 people living there. All right, and you can see there are a lot of mountains around here. The closest metropolitan city to us is Hangzhou, the capital city of Zhejiang province. Have you heard of Hangzhou? Every child snack in secret too, right? So I often caught my daughter with his hand in the cookie jar. And these days, you know what? She always eats a British kind of biscuits behind us. And we found this brand of biscuits a few years ago, and it's something that we have been stuck to for the biscuits. And I don't know how to pronounce it in English, but I try to say McVitie's. So can you help me, Dawn, to identify what kind of a biscuit it is, and is it really a good and popular one in Britain? McVitie's, something like this. And it's a good one. We usually buy the original flavor of that brand. It is very popular, a digestive. That's right, Donna. It's a digestive, correct. Digestive biscuits. And we got to know it a few years ago in Shanghai. And very good. We occasionally bought, some flavored cookies of it. But usually we buy only the original digestive cookies of it. All right, now you can see a lot of shrubs. And here, those shrubs are the tea bushes. These are the tea bushes local people rely on annually for their cash income. The major source of cash income for local villagers is here, those buds, the fresh tea leaves, but not now, that you will get in the beginning of spring. People come here to pick those tea buds and sell them to local traders and sometimes local workshops. Actually, my mother-in-law, who now actually works in Hangzhou as a cook, she used to have a little workshop to process tea leaves in the backyard of our estate. And the machines are still there, actually. Have a look. And now, have a look. We are seeing 2 different species of Chinese tea bushes. And here on the left are the shrubs. And these are the tea bushes where people get the tea leaves for money. And they are lower, can you see? And usually they are always pruned by the farmers here so that they don't grow actually very big. Well, this is another species. And this one, you can see the leaf is harder. This is actually another cash plant, but not as big as the lower tea bushes. This higher tea bush, oh, it's almost like an arbor. It can be. And you can see there are flowers in decadence. Every late autumn, early spring, people come here to pick the tea seeds with the kernel in each seed that can be extracted, squeezed into tea oil. And my wife and I, we like to make an analogy of this oil with your olive oil because they are in similar price and both are very healthy. All right, let's keep going. What is the temperature there, please? The temperature, look at how my kid and my wife are clothed. The temperature, and my wife is now cleaning her runny nose. And actually, I have my runny nose now just because of the temperature, not because of any coldness. Oh, no, not because of any cold condition. Just because of coldness, the low temperature. And the temperature today in the morning is a little higher than it was yesterday. Not as cold, a little better. I think it is maybe 1 degree or 2 degrees, just right above the freezing point. And yesterday in the morning, it was definitely under the freezing point. Here you can also see my son, and it's our family of 4 on a hike. We usually take this hike once, maybe 2 weeks. And we have 2 things to do today. First, to visit the tomb of my father-in-law. And 2, after that, we'll keep hiking up to a relative's home where we're going to buy their chickens. They raise some chickens. We're going to buy the chickens from them. We have to ask them to help us, slaughter the chickens because we don't know how to do it as younger generation. Donna said, I love tea. This is where I should be. Yeah. I'm in Huangshan Mountain area. And Huangshan Mountain, or the Yellow Mountain, yes, is indeed one of the famous production areas of Chinese tea. And the general species of tea produced here, famous for China and all over the world, is a kind of a green tea. And there are actually different kinds of green tea. Yeah, but there are major types of Chinese tea and subtypes of Chinese tea under each category. All right, look, this is a more of an arbor type of the tea tree, and people get the tea seeds to make oil. All right, let me say this again, and look here, these people get the leaves for tea. All right, I need to clean my runny nose. Now we are arriving at the tomb area of my father-in-law, to be clear. I'm originally from Shanghai, and there it is. Local people, as their farmers in identity. By the way, in China, there are two major identities of people. The first one is a citizen, someone who belongs to the city. It's an identity. And the other one is a farmer. So here, in the rural area of China, anyone who actually is born here is automatically identified as a farmer. And it's your identity, something you cannot actually change easily. Now, one of the common ways to change your identity is to buy an apartment in a city. First of all, you become a migrant worker to work hard in the city, and then you buy an apartment with all your money and all the money of your family. 2 generations, both parents, even the parents of both sides if you are married. It's just that. Or you marry to a Shanghai man, and after a couple of years, you become a Shanghai citizen. But in my wife's case, yes, she is married to a Shanghai man. So I'm a Shanghai citizen, and she is a farmer. But she doesn't choose to become a Shanghai citizen in identity. She still decides to keep her original farmer's identity. Of course, it doesn't really impact us to any substantial degree. That's all right. And actually, these days, people are more jealous of a farmer's identity. But this is only now, not 10 years ago, not 20 years ago, let alone 30 years ago. Do people ask you when they meet you, which you are? Yeah. It's very funny to think that people are given different identities just based on their birthplace. Of course, this is not something people actually realize of the importance. For people in China. All right, now we are at the tomb. I know some people actually are interested in a typical tomb of Chinese people. Actually, I did think of showing you on my other tours before, but this is actually the first time I'm doing it. This is my father-in-law's tomb. And these days, recently we have noticed a lot of people, the builders in construction of the new tombs. And my wife told me, because my wife is a local person and she has good people connection with the local people and she speaks the local dialect, she told me that it is because there is a change of policy next year, which is going to be less favorable with the people here in the village. Therefore, a lot of people in this kind of anticipation, they just build their tombs ahead of time to protect their interests. The policy is mainly about the size of the tomb. You can't build a tomb of this size here in the village. Therefore, some people just build them ahead of time. And people who actually watched my other tours before got to know that here in this village, a lot of people, when they are alive, they actually buy their coffins ahead of time. So when you go to visit somebody's home, there's actually a place to keep their coffin, even when they are alive. And let's see what my wife is doing here. This is basically what a local family does when they come here to visit. But not the whole Shibun, because I actually advised my wife for something more simple. And my wife is pushed by two different forces. Let's put aside her personal will aside first. The two forces, one comes from her mother, who prefers something more traditional, and the other force from me, who prefers something more simple. Is there a reason why the tomb at this place? Oh yeah, Donna. First of all, when local people build a tomb, they have to do it. They have to pick the location at the field that is owned by the family. This is the first precondition, and then you can build a tomb. Well, as to the specific location, because when you have a field, maybe there are different locations, and it's a good size. You have to pick the specific location, and that is usually decided by a fortune teller. Local people, they actually hire a fortune teller. They pay a fortune teller to tell them what is the best location based on feng shui, geomancy. Yeah. And in our case, there is actually a relative in my wife's family who is almost a fortune teller. So 3 years ago, after my father-in-law died, it was that man who actually offered to be the fortune teller for the family without charge. And he picked this location for my wife's family. And see, my son is holding a few pieces of incense sticks and bowing with the incense sticks. And here on the ground, there's paper being burnt. And my daughter just now unpacked a nice piece of clothes made of paper. And these are all burnt at the tomb. People do this as they believe this is a way for them to carry the wishes of them. I mean, to carry the, for example, this clothes, after it gets burnt, people believe the people in the other world can use them in their world, the clothes. And sometimes people, they buy a bunch of articles, clothes, a bed, a car, a refrigerator, a house, all made of paper. In China, it's very interesting. A lot of people, they talk about what appears in their dream. So sometimes old people, they believe in that a lot more. They will say that, a scene just appeared in my dream a couple of days ago. And in that dream, the deceased one requested a new car or a new piece of clothes as he in the other world felt cold. Then the people, of the family, they will come here with something based on the request. Look, a lot of people are doing it. This is something we are not going to do today, and something I asked my wife to be simplified with. That is the play of firecrackers and fireworks. Kevin, what's the matter? Calm down. Be quiet here. My son just now was upset with something my daughter did. And just now we heard loud noise coming from the firecrackers and fireworks. And this is something people also do here traditionally. But I asked my wife to cut this out. And we are not doing today. Here in UK, we have located the graveyards for people to be buried, but we can't just choose. All right. We also come here with the offering. Those dumplings, food, steamed buns made by my wife. They are brought here as part of the offering. Well, people, for example, in Shanghai, they do something a little bit different because obviously they don't have their own land. Of course, sometimes, when I say people here have their own land, this is another topic. Actually, in China, nobody really owns the land. Everything is owned by the government. But relatively, I can say that people here own their land, all right, just to be easier for you to understand, as opposed to people in Shanghai. Well, people in Shanghai, they have their apartments, or some few people have maybe a house. Well, usually the dead people are buried in a cemetery. It's a cemetery where people go in the city to see to respect their ancestors. Please tell your wife thank you for letting us visit her father's grave with her. All right, I will. Thank you, KG. The difference is just that people go to a different location in Shanghai. It's a public cemetery where people go. And here it's their own tomb in their own land. And obviously in Shanghai, the price to own a graveyard is much more expensive than it is here, even though it is much smaller. Thank you, Ellen. And something I want to point out here is you don't recognize Chinese characters, but let me help you navigate. Here on the left, there are actually the names of the children of the deceased one. And I told you that my wife actually has a brother. But here in this case, you do not see the name of my wife. This is the reflection of the traditional belief of preferring boys to girls. And for this, I asked some local older generation people. They told me that it depends on the individuals. It depends on individuals. If the family, the older generation, for instance, my father-in-law's will or my mother-in-law's will, if collectively they kind of thought that it was important to put also the daughter's name on it, then they would do it. But in this case, they just didn't do it. There's not the name of my wife's on it. My wife is asking my son to say something before we leave. And we'll come back here again on Chinese New Year, according to the local tradition. And Chinese New Year is coming in 1 month's time. It is January the 22nd. All right, I haven't bowed with incense sticks, so pardon me for a second. I need to do it before we leave. Like, Kevin, can you help me hold the gimbal? 我也要烧香拜一下。然后的话，注意，你对着这个，你看到这个镜头里面的景象，看到吗？拿好，你不要拿那么上面，拿下面一点。对，拿着就行了哈。来，香给我来，香给我。对，外公属龙的。香给我来。我也想要一个妹妹，我也要拜。好，可以了。我把烟给吃了。My daughter was choked by smoke. Actually, you know what? Now my body is covered with the floating ashes from those burnt paper. Or sometimes if you do the fireworks, there's also some excess of dust from the fireworks. And to me, the fireworks just looks too dangerous. Just looks too dangerous. I have some bitter memories of people playing firecrackers in the city when I was a child in Shanghai. The artwork of the crane is lovely. Is it carved? Yeah, carved. Yes. It cost about 30,000 yuan, 30,000 RMB to build such a tomb here in the village, with everything counted in. The materials, the manpower, from carrying to construction to finishing, everything. About 30,000 yuan. Oh, of course, also the cost of the foundation. Yeah. 哎，那些一会儿来拿是吧？一会儿再来拿。Okay. Now we are leaving, and the offering food is still left there. But later, when we pass on our way back from our relatives' home, we're going to get them and bring them back. And in China, you can eat those food that has been offered at the tomb. Yeah. All right. Now we are walking back to the main path, the flagging path, to go further on this mountain. 往前走呀。They have to bring all the stone up those steps? Yes, Donna. Yes. Look, this is a rock village. And when I talk about the concept of the village, actually there are different sub-villages scattered here and there. And basically, you can imagine that there's always another sub-village located further away, further higher in the mountain. And they're all mountains one after another. If you keep walking, you can visit all those villages in the entire area, a lot of them. It is a Wednesday. Children in a city like Shanghai are supposed to be ready in front of a computer or an iPad for their online lessons now. But here in this village, children, they don't have to sit in front of a screen, and they have much less homework to do. And well, the thing is that they don't have to sit in the front of a screen. That is something I find very good. They have more freedom, and they have some printed exercises to do every day, and these were given ahead of time. These were given to us actually at the end of last week. And every day, teachers will send some very short learning content on the social media to the parents, and through whom children will learn some short lessons. Basically just 10 minutes or even 5 minutes. That's it for their day. Of course, they have some homework to do, like my son who is in the 3rd grade. He actually has a load of homework, which is typical in China. Children are always flooded with the loads of homework. It's actually a problem. That's why a lot of Chinese people are not creative. Why are the regulations for city and rural education so different? I would say because in a city, those are schools, they are kind of more responsible for parents. They want to show parents that they are good schools. And one of the ways to show that they are good schools is to have a good load of homework. And all those are proper online lessons given by teachers, as if those kids were at school. I would say that. Well, here it's just more natural, more casual. But of course, education in the village of China is not a bed of roses at all. There are a lot of problems in schools, in teachers, and in also the kids in school, because those kids in school, some of them are actually a lot of them are left behind children. The concept of a left behind child in China means a child who is not attended to by their parents on a daily regular basis, because their parents are migrant workers. So those kids actually live with their grandparents, which is a very bad thing to children. And that is something I can tell from my personal experience as a child many years ago. But I suppose that if you are aware of the problem, and for me and my wife as parents, if we can do something more to regulate, to help our children with, then we are not as worried about some problems that are brought up by the location. Okay. Oh, it's a little bit slippery, and you can see the path is wet. Here, cold in the morning, and it's typical to see mist and fog in the morning. But now, with the sunshine and temperature going up, you don't get to see any more mist. It's all clear. Teachers here in the village, they are usually older because those teachers, they have worked in their schools for many years, 2 decades or 3 decades, even 4 decades. So you can imagine there are some problem out of it. But on the other hand, as they are more senior, those teachers, I would say, more or less have more human touch. While in a city, teachers are usually very young, in their 20s, some in their 30s. And those young teachers themselves are people as single child. They grew up as single child. And I would say sometimes I think socially, they don't quite understand, from the perspective of human touch, as well as those more senior teachers here in the village. This is one of maybe a trivial differences between them. For instance, a teacher here would encourage children to go to the nature, to get different senses through touching, seeing, etc. Well, in a city, those teachers, they want you to do more homework, to be more excellent in academically more excellent, and they don't encourage you as much as a teacher here to do so-called dangerous outdoor activities. But you know what? Actually, for this, I think I'm on the side of the older teacher because it's so important for a child as a human to get in touch with the real world in different dimensions. It's not always sweetness. Sometimes there's bitterness. And these are all real things in nature and also in social life. I want them to have some first-hand experience so that they can use as a reference for them to think now or in the future for their life. All right, now I think we have covered maybe half of the trip up to the relative's home who lives in another village. So far, we haven't met any bypasser. All right. There's a pavilion made of a stone, I think, that we can reach in a minute. And there, let me show you the view back at the village where we started. Did you say you're only halfway to your relative's home? Yes, Elaine, maybe, yes, maybe a little more than half. Now it has been 48 minutes of this tour, and let's see if we can go there in one vigorous go. If we keep going, I think we can get there maybe in 10 minutes. Breathless. We are all breathless. We are so dwarfed by the local farmers who live here. And usually they are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, even 80s, but they still work. They still carry heavy loads on the pole, on their shoulder pole. And we see them do and work like this every once in a while. But here, we young people, empty-handed climbing or hiking here on the mountain, we're getting breathless. We're dwarfed. Now you can get a better picture of the village where we started. We don't live there though. We live in a flatter area that is located under the village you are seeing in the view. And we started from our home. We walked about 10 minutes to reach the vicinity of that village. And from there, we walked maybe 10 minutes to reach the tomb of my father-in-law's. And afterwards, we kept walking for another, now so far, 15 minutes maybe. And we have maybe another 10 minutes to go. Okay.这个口罩谁的？不是我们的哈。不是。什么是我们的？ This is a stone gazebo or pavilion that was built here 公元92年 in 1992. But not originally built in 1992. Here it says rebuilt in the year 1992. Here's the name of this pavilion. People have lived here in this village area for over 400 years, around 500 years since the Ming Dynasty of China.妈妈，纸巾来张给我。好，谢谢。现在还有吗？茶籽？没了，全部拔掉了是吧？摘掉了。Camellias. 爸，我上面有只大马蜂。There's a new wave of critical changes in China in the wake of the latest dramatic change of COVID regulation policy. And this one morning we got to know that the delivery service just stopped. That means From now on, we can't receive our parcels on the online shopping anymore. It's being suspended for the time being, and don't know when it's going to be restored. People who live up there in the village, every season of tea for leaves, and also the tea for the tea oil, they have to pick all those leaves and seeds from the trees, and afterwards, when they have a bulk, they have to carry them down on this path. First to the village I showed you just now in the view, and then further down to the village seats where they can maybe meet the traders to sell their produces. And last year, they built a road for cars to run on. But that was only built last year. You can see this is an area in the boony where the winds turn around. Yesterday, I watched a documentary produced by BBC and talking about the resources and the energy forms in the earth. And there are two countries that both found rich reserve of coal back 300, 200 years ago. And one was Britain, and the other one was China back 200, 300 years ago. But these two countries, they used their natural resources in two different ways, which made their destinies also very different. Britain, they turned the natural resource into energy, which pushed their industrial revolution. Where China, we failed to do that. Everything, even once appeared in history as a wisdom, just got to be the monopoly of the emperor, of the ruler. There's no folk wisdom in China that has ever been spread and put into the practical use. That's how they're different. But let's say, do not blame anybody. Do not blame your king. Do not blame your rulers sometimes even. Just think about what people, as an individual and also as a group, what you have done. It is all decided by every individual. So China, in this sense, still has a long way to go. Of course, the natural beauty is here. It's enjoyable, very pleasant. Okay. So if you have any questions, do let me know. I think we're going to finish here soon. And now we're getting close to the village. If you can stick out, I would love to carry on until we reach another village we're aiming for. Wow, you know what? Actually, I still have my long johns on now, which is actually a burden. It's a burden. It's also too hot for me. Before I started this trip, I took off one piece of clothes. But now it seems I need to take off more, and I will do it soon. 好的。Okay, we're almost there. I can see houses in between the trees. We have been here. I think I filmed my tour twice here in this village. And we're coming here to buy live chickens from them. Ask them to help us slaughter and bring them back. Probably keep them in the freezer for the time being and to enjoy for future. And probably more for the Chinese Spring Festival, the Chinese New Year. And yesterday, early in the morning, we got to know that someone slaughtered a bull in a village seat, and my wife went there. We purchased a good amount of it. And when we bought the beef, it was still warm, as the creature was only slaughtered hours before the meat was sold yesterday. And my wife said that this kind of beef is not easy to get in the city, because in the city, people do a lot of tricks to those meats. For example, they kind of soak the meat in the water. Therefore, when they are sold, there's the weight that is also in the meat to be sold together in the price. But here yesterday in our occasion, it was more pure. There was no trick to do. And we spent almost $200. We bought quite a lot, more than 12 kilograms. We bought 12 kilograms and we spent about $200. And it's something we're going to enjoy for quite a while. Now it's winter, we need more variety of meat for humans to store energy, to grow a little bit of fat, to go through, help us right through the winter. All right, now, eventually, we have completed our long march. Here we're in the village, and there's a label here that says traditional Chinese village, Guanshan village. And look, these are the houses here in this village. Very few people live here, just like numerous other villages in China, let alone this one. So, off the beaten track. And this building used to be a school, and it was abandoned for also many years, until recently local people got to know the government is going to spend money to pump the pump to reuse this building next year as a patriotic red spot. After that, I believe more children and Communist Party members will come here to get their patriotic education right here. All right, before we finish, let me give you another look around. 你好，吴健呢？吴健醒了吗？姑父。Last year, I remember at this location there was a lot of snow, and my daughter and I went up there to play the snow during Chinese New Year. We usually come here. Before this time we moved here to live here, we used to come here to visits, usually in Chinese New Year. All right, so it does snow here, and when it snows quite considerably. Not that heavy, but the snow can go up to maybe 20 to 30 centimeters at maximum. All right, guys, thank you for your time. Thank you for your interest in Chinese villages and Chinese people and Chinese culture, etc. Hope you have a wonderful day, lucky day ahead. Thank you for watching, and I'll say goodbye to you here.